Very good morning, Jai Shri Krishna Guru. Thank you for joining Sai Satcharita Parayan. I hope you all had a very wonderful Diwali with your family and friends. So let us continue from where we stop. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha, Om Shri Saraswataya Namaha, Om Shri Guru Dattatreya Namaha, Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha, Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Sai Satcharita, the life and teachings of Shirdi, Sai Baba. We begin from chapter 43 onwards. Niryan of Shri Sainath continued. My obeisance to Shri Ganesh, to Shri Saraswati and Shri Guru Maharaj, to the family deity, to Shri Sita Ramachandra, my most humble obeisance. I bow in reverence to the most venerable Guru, Shri Sainath. In the last chapter, the Niryan of Saint Sai Samarth has been described. Whatever remains incomplete from that account will now be completed in this chapter. Sai Samarth himself inspires the marvelous love for him, and Hemad, who is totally absorbed at his feet, is writing this, his story. Sai himself gives his loving devotion, and he alone adds to the greatness of this life story, because of which there is all the glory in worshipping him and which gives rise to a detachment from worldly life. Hence, I make 1,000 obeisances to him with all my heart, speech and action. His greatness cannot be fully realized by merely contemplating on him, but only by surrendering to him wholeheartedly and single-mindedly. To wash away the dirt of all the sins that have accumulated and to purify the heart, all other means are futile. Even if you search, there is no other means to purify the heart which is simpler and easier than to remember the glory of God's devotees and to sing their praises in bhajan or kirtan. Absolutely said, and very, very rightly said. The only way to attain devotion to the Divine Lord Almighty is to surrender unto the lotus feet of the great Gurus, who are the devotees of the Lord Himself. And when you sing the praises and bhajans and kirtans about these great divine beings, the devotees of the Lord, who come on this world, who manifest in the form of a Guru, the sages and the saints and the great Master himself, and to impart knowledge, to help establish dharma and to show all the people on what it is to live a righteous life and to put dharma back on track. So let us now gather the threads of the previous story, contemplate on it briefly, and proceed with our account of Sai, the abode of self-rejoicing. Earlier, it has already been narrated in detail why his Niryan was on the Vijayadashmi only, and how under the pretext of Tatyaba, the future events had already been foretold, and later how he gave in charity to Lakshmi, thus remaining alert about dharma at the time of giving up the body. All this has been described. Now in this chapter, it will be narrated how Baba listened to the Ramayana for his own good and read by a Brahmin when his end came near. How the place for the Samadhi was planned, how his favorite brick slipped from the hand quite unexpectedly. Listen to all this attentively. Similarly, listen to how on one occasion, as Baba went into Nirvikalpa Samadhi for 3 days, people were convinced that it was not Samadhi but his Niryan. How they made preparation for the last rites, and when Baba suddenly regained normal consciousness, how people were startled in their minds. But this is the story of Niryan, which no one really likes to hear. And the listeners will tire of listening even to this account of Niryan. Absolutely. You don't want to, listen to something that is not so conducive to your, to your heart, to your mind, because nobody wants to listen that a divine master has finished his sojourn on this planet Earth and he's departed to his abode. And that's very painful because you always want them around you. When you are devoted to the great master, the great gurus, the thought itself is very painful that yes, though they are all pervading, They are omnipotent, omniscient and omnipresent. They're always with you. Yet you will feel that vacuum. You will feel that something is missing terribly in your life when you don't have the presence, the physical presence of your divine master. It doesn't mean that they are not with you. Again, I'm repeating this. They're always there with you in their spirit body. They're everywhere in the consciousness state. They're always there with you. You can turn around whichever side, in whatever thing you want to wish to see them. They're always there in that form. Likewise, when Sri Krishna left from Vrindavan to Mathura, Radha Rani was the only one who could find him in everything. That is the highest state of bhakti that you need to attain, where you can see your divine master, your beloved, your guru, your Lord Almighty in every being, whether it is sentient or insentient. So it's whether it is an animate or inanimate, in all the beings, this entire creation, you will find him. So that is the devotion that you need to develop. And to develop this kind of devotion, my Krishna Guruji will keep saying a very important thing, which is, he says, you need to be silent. You need to practice silence. The sadhana of attaining, this level of devotion is to first practice silence. How do you get to that silence? So most important, the three most important things, it is Shravan, Manan and Nididhyasan. When you do all the three things, then the fourth state you enter into is silence. When you silence your mind and your mouth, and that's when you can go inward and you will find the Lord within yourself, inside of your heart. He's not outside, he's everywhere, yet he lives in your heart. That is where you need to go and seek him. You need to find him. So once you get to that state, you will understand that everything is the Lord in this universe. So you will be able to achieve the state of seeing God in everybody. That is why Lord Shri Krishna says, you have to see me in everything, because I am the very self of this entire creation. I have manifested as this entire universe. The entire universe has manifested from me, and they all have come from me alone. So what is the difference between them and me? I am one with them always. That is the universal self. So this is how you need to be able to achieve. See, so how do you get to that? Get to that is only through sadhana, intense sadhana. This morning, my Krishna Guruji was teaching how today we are all very fragile beings. He said, you have need to speak, or you have need to come and say some things. But can you go into silence? You don't have to come and say to me everything. Why do you need me? You need to find me within yourself. You don't have to have that communication. So turn off your phone, be in silence. And he gave a very interesting example. He said, Lord Shri Krishna, though he lived, with his 16,108 wives, with managing this, and his children, grandchildren, after the the Mahabharat war, he goes back to his kingdom and he lives with all his wives. But yet he's not there in that. In the sense, he might be living in the material world. It's like a normal being, but he's the divine Lord Mighty. He is untouched like the lotus flower, who's shining beautiful, who's standing tall, untouched by anything that's happening, mere a witness. That is the state we need to attain. To attain that, you have to put arduous effort, extraordinary effort. Sadhana is a must. Practice is a must. Overcoming the mind is not so easy. You have to work very hard towards that. Every single day, you have to keep practicing. You have to make efforts, and discipline is very, very important. See, most important is we have to overcome our mind, body, and the senses. So what happens is, my Krishna Guruji has taught always, this whole mind itself is a unreal thing, because you cannot catch the mind. You don't know where the mind is, but yet you think the mind exists. So when the mind is unreal, what makes you think the mind exists? So who has given birth to the mind? It's your own belief system. When you say, I have a mind, I am thinking, and that is when the mind comes into existence. So when you don't think, when you just don't think, then you understand the mind itself is unreal. It is like a placebo effect. My Krishna Guruji's mother, she used to get headache. And suddenly she'll tell my Guruji, give me the medicine that you give me, then I will be fine. What my Guruji does, for many years, he has trained, he'll not tell anything to her. He'll simply give her vitamin C tablet. It's a placebo effect. The moment she'll have that medicine, she says, now, Abhi, my headache is gone. आता मी बरं झाले. It's a Marathi way of saying Maharashtrian. She's a Maharashtrian. So she says, now I'm fine, perfectly fine. So what was it? Was the headache real? No. Can you imagine? It's only the creation of your mind. So if you can control your mind, you can overcome anything in this world. And that is why Krishna Guruji can say all the diseases are the creation of mind alone. You are actually perfectly normal. There's nothing wrong with you. And I have experienced this time and again, even off late, not off late, but in the few months when suddenly my back had sprained again. My Krishna Guruji says there's nothing wrong with you. You go for your walk, you do everything, and just don't bother, and you'll be perfectly all right. Exactly, it happened. Though I was not able to bend for a few days, but I became normal. I kept running. How did that happen? Because I said there's nothing wrong with me. Even in that pain, the pain is in the mind. Please, you need to understand. The pain is not in your back. The pain is in the mind. The pain is a creation of your mind. So when I used to go for my, the jog and walk, what happened is that I overcame my mind. How did I overcome it? By not letting it let me believe, oh, I am in pain, I cannot go for walk. So that's the only way to overcome. When your mind says you can't do something, you have to push yourself very harder to do the same thing that which your mind says you are not capable of doing. Or you're capable of doing, you have to then put doubly effort to do more. So don't get carried away by the pairs of opposites in this world, either by pleasure or pain. It's the most important thing. And what does detachment actually mean? You must go listen to my Guruji's Das Bodh Satsang yesterday evening, which will happen between 4:30 and 5:30. It is on Krishna Knows. In that he very nicely has explained, what does it mean to be spiritual? And he said, today, there is not one being in this planet Earth with who I can say will stand the test. Because everybody is very fragile. They just succumb to their mind. He says, I need one Shivaji Maharaj. Shivaji Maharaj was then avatar of Lord Shivji himself. And he had a greatest guru, which is Samarth Ramdas. And he exactly followed everything that his guru had ordained him to do. And he did all of that. And in that, see, most important, though he's the Lord Almighty, doesn't mean that he stops learning. He doesn't go through challenges. No, as a body, he has to also perform the worldly duties, which is ordained, the reason and the purpose of his birth. What was it? One is to attain his spiritual will. Yes, so he learned under his Gurudev, okay? And then when his Guruji said, now go and rule this kingdom on my behalf. Then he kept the padukas of his Gurudev on the throne, and he sat next to it and ruled the kingdom in the most righteous manner. And in that, it is taught what it is to be a great king, how you need to cultivate having friends, what are the kind of qualities you need to have. And so it is very important that you imbibe all of this. And that's what my Krishna Guruji was teaching me. Do you think that Lord Shivaji Maharaj has not gone through all of this? Yes, in the material world, the journey and the process of learning is extremely important. Until you don't learn, you will not understand how to apply the knowledge. See, here Baba has been teaching us so many different things through different leelas. What are the leelas? They are just a play. They are stories of the divine Lord Almighty. Why do they give those stories? So that you understand the lesson from that. And my Krishna Guruji said this very nicely this morning. He says, look, you have studied, but the problem is you don't understand. When you have studied that knowledge, you don't get that till you don't go through that painful experience. Why do you need to experience that? Why can't you just imbibe that knowledge and then to go apply? This is a problem with human beings. Till we don't learn the hard way, we don't understand the meaning of those lessons, what is being taught. That is why even in spirituality, every lesson that you learned, you will get a direct experience to that. And this experience comes to you only with the grace of the real master. The real master alone will grant you this experience, not anybody else. Please understand this. The lessons learned and the direct experience of the lessons learned is very important. If I don't understand what Baba is teaching, because I'm not going to experience that, then this knowledge remains still a bookish knowledge. Yes, I know there is something like, okay, righteous life, how to be compassionate. But till you don't go and experience what the word compassion stands for, how do you know how to be compassionate with the people or world around? You are not going to learn. So the experience is a must. To which, that's what my Krishna Guruji was teaching. He said even Shivaji Maharaj has to go through his journey. As the king, he also had to learn different things. He had to go and physically do those things. He had to fight the war. He had to do too many things. And he had to rule the kingdom in the most righteous manner. How do you do that? And he said the word, you have to be shrewd. Shrewd in the sense you understand how to make friends, how to build a team, how to have the right people with him who are going to fight and give their life for their country and the kingdom. So you need to have these things, and to have all of that, first you need to be trained of what it means to be a king. And that's exactly what Ramdas Maharaj, his Guruji, taught him everything. And then he put him on that path and said, now rule the kingdom on my behalf. When your Gurudev says that, understand that strength, that knowledge and the power he has already imparted, and he has blessed it within you. So you are the chosen one. So what makes you think you are incapable? But going through the journey, the process of learning is the most important thing in the world of spiritual, because till you don't understand that lesson, you cannot understand what it means to be in spiritual. And how do you then realize God realization is not an easy thing. How do you then become devoted to your Guruji? None of this can happen if you don't understand if you don't get that knowledge and the experience. Knowledge is the first thing which your Guruji imparts to you, and the next is the experience. Once you get the experience, then you have to keep applying the lesson. And most important, when does the application of the lesson happens? When you go through the tests. And the tests are not easy. Let me tell you this much. Every single day, you are going to be tested whether you understand, whether you will stand that lesson. Yes, sometimes you might fail. That's perfectly fine. But you have to get up and run again. So it doesn't mean that you fail, you have lost it. No, you have to continue to strive. Striving is a must. And practice. Sadhana, deep sadhana. Don't forget the word which Baba has mentioned in the scripture, which is deep sadhana, extraordinary effort, arduous effort. Without deep sadhana, we cannot evolve ahead on the path of spirituality. This is what my Krishna Guruji was saying. Today, nobody wants to do sadhana. We are in a tamasic yuga. We are completely, sitting and want to do nothing in our life. But great people or great beings did not become great just because they just sat and did nothing. Please know that even every guru have to wear out himself in doing the sadhana to attain that state. Though they are the Parabrahman themselves, they also still have to go through the process of learning under their guru and doing all the sadhana that is expected of them. So you and me, of course, we have a long way, so let us focus and you give that time to ourselves in doing that sadhana, in experiencing that teaching and going deeper and deeper every single day. So coming back, but this is the story of Niryan. Okay, how they made preparation for the last rites, and when Baba suddenly regained normal consciousness, how people were startled in their minds. But this is the story of Niryan, which no one really likes to hear, and the listeners will tire of listening even to this account of Niryan. This, however, is the Niryan of saints and sadhus, which will purify the listeners and the narrator. Hence, for fear of its becoming too lengthy, listen to it in parts till you are satisfied. By casting off the physical body, Baba attained to that eternal state of self-rejoicing, which is free from rebirth, though difficult to attain. While in the physical body, he was manifest. By abandoning it, he became unmanifest. His incarnation at one specific place for one particular purpose ended, revealing his all-pervasiveness. His belonging to one place was over and he became omnipresent. Merging with his real self, he became eternal completely. Sai was the center of everybody's life. Nay, he was the very life of them all. Without Sai, the villagers of Shirdi became piteous and meek. Absolutely. See, he's the one where everybody takes refuge under. But what happens? They just feel lost the moment you think that somebody is leaving you and going. But that is what the strength you have to develop. The gurus don't leave you, they are omnipresent. This is what we discussed just now. So have that faith and you will experience them everywhere, within you, around you, in everything. That is the spiritual strength you have to develop. As the body grew cold and insensitive, a loud wail arose. Young and old all worried excessively, as if it was the end of their own life. Physical ailments like fever, etc., afflict only those in worldly life. They never came across their limit to trouble the yogis. By kindling their own light, the saints burned their own bodies in it. Baba did the same with his own hands. What should not have happened at all had already come to pass. Maharaj merged with the Brahman. Their spirits dampened. People sobbed their hearts out. Oh, how much better it would have been had I not gone away from him. I missed the last meeting thus. Maybe I could have been of some service. How could my mind have been so befogged at such a critical moment? Such were the different thoughts that saddened each one at heart. Yet, who can know what was passing in Baba's mind? No rattling in the throat, no grasping for breath, no cough, no violent agitation. Baba went away happy and peaceful. Where Sai's darshan now? Where that pressing of his feet? How can Sai's feet be washed anymore? Or partaking of his teeth? Seeing that his end was approaching, why did he send away those loving devotees around him, causing them so much heartache and repining? Perhaps seeing all those dearly loved devotees around at the time of Niryan, Baba's love for them would have upsurged in that moment. And these bonds of love come in the way of the attainment of moksha. If these are not snapped in time, how can the mind become free from the desires? So that when the body is cast off without this happening and the spirit rises, a new involvement with material worldly life begins in that very instant, bringing with it a tumult of new hopes and aspirations. This is very true. Like I mentioned to you, in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Shri Krishna has very beautifully explained, and he says that the thought that you hold at the moment of departing, when death is closer, and the thought that you have, that one last thought, and that is what you will attain, which means you're again sanctioning yourself rebirths. You're sanctioning yourself many more karmic loops that you will get into. So don't get into it. See, bringing with it a tumult of new hopes and aspirations, and then desires. All of that spring upon. So don't ever think of anything else except the Divine Lord Almighty. You have to only say Hari Bol. You have to have the name of the Divine on your lips, even when death comes and strikes you. Death is nothing. It's just a release from this material worldly bondage, material worldly existence. So very graciously embrace it and only seek the divine. At that time, you will only see the Hari. You will experience that Hari himself has come to receive you. And this is a very important lesson to understand. So don't fear death. There's nothing to be fearful about death. Saints and sadhus are forever quick to avoid this, and Baba too was firmly resolute in his mind to perpetuate this custom of the people. And this is an awareness one must keep in the last moments of life, to be alone with a mind perfectly peaceful and free from doubts and apprehensions, so that the mind can dwell on one's chosen deity. Everyone knows the famous words, as the thoughts at the time of the death, so the next birth one gets. Therefore, the devotees of the God themselves put this in practice. This is their way of continuing the prevalent custom. Only 14 days remained. Baba's end came near. So Baba appointed Vaze to read Ram Vijay to him. Vaze sat down in the mosque. The repeated readings of the Poti began, and Baba began listening to the Poti. 8 days passed by. Later, Baba commanded, let the reading of the Poti proceed clear and uninterrupted. Vazay went on reading for the next 3 days and nights. Absolutely. I hope you remember the way the whole Srimad Bhagavatam came into existence when Parikshit was told that his death is going to now come by in the next 21 days. So within that 21 days time, Sukadev came and imparted that knowledge to Parikshit. And in 21 days, he attained his spiritual wheel. He attained Lord Shri Krishna himself. So that such is what it's mentioned. At least, during your last days, just listen to the words of the divine. You don't have to indulge yourself in anything. And exactly what Baba is doing here. He's asked someone, Baze, to study the Ram Vijay to him, which is very important. So such are the practices that one has to practice within our own self. And if you take in the material world, people are lost in saying, okay, I want to give my property to my daughter, to my son. That is what they're all worrying about. Oh, what happens to me? What happens to my son? What happens to my granddaughter? What happens to someone? This is how we think. What happens to my business? Why are you bothered? Nothing is yours. You came with nothing and you're going to go with nothing. Why can't you just take the name of the divine, read about the glories of the divine? At least in the last few days that you will have the grace of the divine to attain him. But man doesn't want to make even the simplest of the efforts. He's still lost in material worldly attachments. He thinks his wealth, he needs to distribute his wealth. He has to do something for someone. He wants to give something to somebody. Oh my God, we're always lost in the material worldly transactions. Can you get off all this and just take the name of the divine? That is the only way where you can attain your spiritual will. Even though Baba himself is a Parabrahma, he's doing this. Why do you think he's doing this? Not because he is going to get any benefit out of it. The only reason why he's doing this is because he wants to set an example so that the world can follow him. What it means to be on the path of spiritual. No matter he's the Guru himself, he's the Parabrahman himself, yet he still performs all those acts and all those sadhana so that the world can follow him. He's setting an example that tomorrow if somebody were to die, then they know what exactly they will have to do. They should not waste their time even for a moment. That is exactly what Baba is teaching. See, even till the very last minute, he's teaching. By setting an example, though old and appearing fragile, there's nothing, he's not old, neither he's fragile. Just the body he's old, the body is fragile, but Baba is eternal being. There is nothing for them to achieve, but yet he does. Why does he do? So that you and me can follow in this world on this path. So altogether, he read for full 11 days. By then, he was exhausted due to weakness. As he kept reading, he became tired. 3 days passed in this way. Then what Baba did was he stopped the reading altogether and sent Vazay away, himself remaining calm and peaceful. Listeners may tell us the reason for sending Vazay away. So I shall narrate it as best as I can. Listen attentively. As the end approaches, saints, sadhus and virtuous have Poti Puranas read out to them and listen to them attentively. Shukracharya read Mahabhagavat ceaselessly for 7 days to King Parikshit. Absolutely. Then listening to which the king was satisfied and died peacefully. He who leaves this world listening to God's Leela, seeing God before his eyes all the time, truly achieves his will. Like I already mentioned this. Then such is the inclination of people's minds, and such is always the practice of the saints. They never deviate from the path of guiding the people, or rather, they incarnate only for that purpose. It is only natural that they who are indifferent towards their elemental body should not be agitated by sorrow or pain at leaving that body. But here, the listeners may have a doubt. It is appropriate to say about those who are already enjoying eternal bliss that they are affected by Maya or delusions. How can the nearness of devotees be an obstacle to him who is constantly absorbed in the self and contemplates ceaselessly on Allah Malik? Absolutely is the question. One who's always lost in his own self. How come the near and the devotees be an obstacle? No, there's no obstacle. Yet he only shows how to be silent, how to be in solitude, and how to just leave the body and go away at that moment in time, at the perfect moment in time, so that no one can become an obstacle. It's not an obstacle, but that's the process. For him, the worldly life had already ended and the spiritual life had stood still. The feeling of duality was totally rooted out and he had merged into his true self. All this is true to the letter. There is not an atom of untruth about this. But the saints fulfill themselves only by accomplishing the purpose of their incarnation, which is to guide people to the path of righteousness. Absolutely. The only accomplishment, the purpose for why they have donned that body is to guide the people, teach the people, and show the path of righteousness. Establish dharma in this world, and guide the people to the path of right purpose and righteousness alone. Saints are free from the six passions, always in an unmanifest state. They appear only for uplifting their devotees. Then how can they have death? Absolutely. Coming together of the body and the bodily organs is birth. Their separation is death. To be caught up in the worldly life and to become free from it is called birth and death respectively. With birth comes death inevitably. They cannot be separated from each other. Death is the natural state of the being, while life of the jiva is unnatural to it. But what do they care about? The span of their life. Who slay death itself, hold sway over it, and incarnate of their own will. Absolutely. See, they have incarnated on their own will at the right time so that they can impart the knowledge. They can establish the dharma and put people on the path of righteousness. But it's not about death is also inevitable because when they have manifested in a body, they have to die too. The body has to die. It's not the being who's dying. So this is the truth because they are omnipresent. They go back into their unmanifest state. They become the Parabrahma themselves. Once again, merge within the Parabrahma. But the body will have to leave. So the body will have to go back to the elements from where it came. They who take life, they who take different avatars with the one desire of uplifting their devotees, can they be bonded by births and deaths? Both these notions in themselves are false. Absolutely. He who has reduced his body to ashes, even before it finally falls, what fear has he of death? He has burned down death itself. Death is a natural state of the body. It is its pleasurable state. It is life that is the unnatural state of the body. So say the thoughtful. Very true. Sai Samarth, the cloud of joy, to whom the birth of the body was never known, how can his body then have death? He was not even aware of the existence of his physical body. Sai was the perfect Parabrahman. How can he have birth and death? To him, the Brahman alone is real, while the whole world is illusory. To such a one, how can there be any awareness of the body? So he didn't have any awareness of the body. See, body is just a vehicle. It's like a garment that you're going to, it's a garb which you will don and then you'll wear for some time and then you leave and then you go back. And when the time is right again and you want to come back to do some more service on this planet Earth, then you will don another garb. So this is how it works. So please understand, don't think this body is permanent and there is no attachments to the body at all. The divine beings are completely detached from the body. They don't have the connect with the body because they are the Parabrahman, the self themselves. So they don't understand their material worldly existence the way you and I can feel the pain. The pain is felt by the mind and we always get attached to the body, but they are completely detached to the body. That is why their state is completely different from what we feel. His being in the body or abandoning it, his wandering everywhere without being seen by anyone. These are all leelas born of his yogic powers, and that only for the upliftment of the devotees. People say that the sun is eclipsed, that it has become invisible, but this is merely the fault of vision. The same is true of the death of the saints. Absolutely, I think we discussed this. The saints don't die, they're always there eternally. I'll give you a very beautiful example in this case. My Guruji once went to Dehu and Alandi many years ago. And when he went into Alandi, where Jnaneshwar Maharaj's Samadhi Mandir is there, it was pretty much in the afternoon. The temple was almost closed, almost closed. But he went inside and somebody just called him, rest of the people who were with him, they were all waiting in the car outside. And he said, I have to go. And when he went, the priest over there said, you come with me. And he took him right inside the mandir, the temple, the shrine, and he got the darshan of that. And then he says, then he offered him, all the prasad, and then he says, go and have your food. The meal, someone is waiting there, you have to have your meal. And then he gives the whole prasad to him. And there's a beautiful chadar. Chadar is the one which is, they cover the samadhi. It's a beautiful drape, which covers the samadhi mandir. It's a flat stone slab. Inside is where the samadhi mandir is. And on that is the padukas of Lord Jnaneshwarji. Now he got this beautiful chadar, and then he goes to this place to have food. And then he asked me, how do you know that do you know me? And this person exactly tells who my Guruji is. So my Guruji was a little shocked. In the sense, of course, he's not shocked that way, but he's like, wow, okay, he knows me. So they knew that he was coming, and he got the beautiful darshan despite the temple was just going to be about to close. So they stopped darshan for everyone else, but he got to sit there inside, and then spend some time alone. And then he was served the naivedya which was offered to the Lord, and then he got all the prasad and the chadar and everything. And before he left the temple, he took a circumambulation, and then there is the mandap where they do they do the festive the celebrations, they do pravachans and all that. This is a very nice mandap, old mandap. And there he saw Jnaneshwar Maharaj and Tukaram sitting and having a conversation. It's like it's not an argument, but they are having a discourse on the very deep spiritual subjects. And my Guruji, and they were talking in the Prakrit language, that the original it's Marathi language. It's called Prakrit, and they were having a dialogue going on between them. And my Guruji stood there and he watched them. It is a most beautiful experience. So the saints and the divine beings don't leave. They only leave their physical body, the physical form, but they're always omnipresent. And this is the truth that you need to understand. Likewise, Baba has never left the place. It is what you want to experience. But if you make that place into commercial and going there just to, fulfill your insatiable desires, then, it defeats the purpose of why the saints came on this planet Earth. But if you go and seek your spiritual wheel, then of course, then the divine beings will guide you through the process. So this is the truth. So to understand that they are always omnipresent, but you can't see them with your naked eyes, this physical eyes that we're talking. Using your senses, you can never experience the divinity. Never. And when my Guruji saw them, it is because he's himself the Parabrahman, he's Lord himself, and he's in essence of Lord Shri Krishna himself. So why will he not be able to see? And he was just enjoying the beautiful dialogue about spirituality, and they were talking about deep subjects, very, very esoteric and complex subjects on spiritual, and they were just having this discussion so beautifully and very powerfully too. And my Guruji gave this, he just sharing this beautiful experience of his, and he says how these divine beings, the great masters, live even today, just that they don't appear to the human beings. Why? Because we are only greedy. We are filled with all the lust, greed, desires, you name it. We are just wanting our material worldly desires to be fulfilled. We only go with a begging bowl, asking for endless things. But can you ask, I want to be spiritual, I want to attain spiritual will? Can you ask something like that? No. We are like, can you give me a job, give me money, give me better house, give me this, give me that. Oh my God, I want to get married. Even despite you getting that knowledge saying that don't fall for lust, but people still want to go and do the same thing, that which they have been warned not to do. So today, this is the world we have entered in. Like, that's why my Krishna Guruji keeps saying, I'm going to withdraw myself. I don't want to teach anymore, because there is not one student who is very sincere about it. Despite even you might be living with the divine Lord, Almighty Lord, yet you will get carried and go and fall in the ditch of the Maya. Maya is going to very nicely welcome. She's going to entice you with lust and greed. Come, look at me, look at me, look at me. And of course, you're going with your arms wide open and falling into the ditch, disrespecting your own Guruji today. They'll call my Guruji, oh, you're my father. But that same father will not exist at the time, even to have that grace or courtesy to say, I'm going to do this in my life. They don't even want to inform. But my Guruji has to write a message to these people. Such is the world we have entered. It is very sad. It is very unfortunate. So what use is today when we have such great beings who are here to teach us, yet we want to be the dog's tail who don't want to straighten out. That is exactly even Baba. You're going to listen in few other chapters where Baba is going to say the same thing. And it feels terrible that if I don't live, if I don't learn these lessons, if I don't live this one beautiful life which God has given in attaining that spiritual being, then what use is of my human existence? There is no use. We are like any other, pig in this world who are going to live in that muck and mire all the time, enjoying and, rolling all over. That is exactly what you will become. So get up right now. It's never too late than never. It's better late than never. So wake up now and do something about your life. People say that the sun is eclipsed, that it has become invisible, but this is merely the fault of the vision. The same is true of the death of the saints. To them, the physical body is merely an exterior obstruction. What then are its physical or mental afflictions to them? If there are any such afflictions brought on by prarabdha, they are not even conscious of these. He whose incarnation was the result of the accumulated merit of previous births of the devotees and was filled with their devotion in the unmanifest state, he has incarnated for their cause when he was seen in Shirdi. Now that the cause of the devotees is accomplished, therefore it is said he has abandoned the body. But who will believe these words? Does a yogi have Niryan and rebirth? Empowered with the ability of death at will, that Sai Samarth was, he burned down his body in the yogic fire, and himself merging into the unmanifest, he yet dwells in the hearts of his devotees. He, remembering whose name the very thought of birth and death vanishes, how can he be in the state of death? He only returns to the earlier unmanifest state. Going beyond the gross state, Baba merged into the unmanifest. Even there, he remains self-absorbed and always alerts his devotees. The form that throbbed with the divine life force is firmly imprinted on the hearts of the devotees. Can that body be said to be dead? Such words the mind refuses to accept. Hence, the Sai, without a beginning and an end, will be alive even to the end of the world and will never be caught up in the birth-death calamity. Did Jnaneshwar Maharaj really die? Oh my God, yes, we just did the story. He gave darshan once again after 3 centuries. Eknath Maharaj actually met him and the world remains indebted to him. Absolutely. So you can meet, they're always there, but you need to have the grace, the purity of heart, the devotion in your heart to be able to see these divine beings who will then, show themselves to you. Grant you that vision to be able to see them. But if you're just a normal human being who is not even devoted, who doesn't even have the purity of heart, purity of your mind, and surrender unto the Guru, forget about this experience. These are just mere words that you will be reading from the scripture. As that gracious Eknath Maharaj was a bright flame in Paitan, so was Tukaram Maharaj in Dehu and Narsimha Saraswati in Alandi. In Parali, it was Samarth Ramdas in Parali. It's Parali. It was Samarth Ramdas in Akalkot Maharaj, in Hanuman Bad Prabhu Manik, and so was this Sai in Shirdi. As the faith in each one's heart, so is this experience even today. Absolutely. As is your faith, so are your experiences. And when you have this devotion, you will be able to experience these divine great beings in whatever form, in whatever way, whether it is in a conscious state or the unconscious state, whether you will be experiencing them in the unmanifest, it doesn't matter. But you will experience that divinity. But such has to be your conviction and faith and the purity of your heart. He whose power is thus proved by actual experience, how can he be in the state of death? Such was this champion of the cause of his devotees who, though he abandoned his mortal coil in Shirdi, pervades the whole animate and inanimate creation in his spirit, and has the power to incarnate at will. Absolutely. The Lord Almighty incarnates at their own will. When they feel that there is a need to establish dharma, they have to put their devotees on the path of righteousness. They will manifest time and again. When the adharma is at its the peak, Lord Shri Krishna has said he comes to establish dharma back on this planet earth. Such is his words. So please know that today the adharma is at the rise. So the Lord has manifested to establish dharma back, and if we do not work towards our own will, then nobody, even God cannot save us. Forget about you and me getting saved by ourselves. Even Lord himself cannot save us. So do not entertain such doubts that now that Samarth has merged in the Brahman, what is left in Shirdi? For Shri Sai is beyond death. Saints manifest themselves for the good of others, and without the help of the womb. They are highly meritorious souls who are Brahman incarnate. Absolutely. They are not born through the soul, through the womb of any mother. You need to understand. They have manifested. Manifested means they manifest into that body. They just don that. Saints manifest themselves for the good of others and without the help of the womb. They are highly meritorious souls who are Brahman incarnate. To these avatars, the states of birth and death near come. Their mission fulfilled, they become one with their real self and merge in the unmanifest. And his Baba, contained only in this body of just 3.5 cubits, it is not right to say that he is of a particular color or form. The power of one who has acquired the 8 siddhis like Anima, Ganima, etc. is not increased or decreased by the coming and going of people, for the perpetual grandeur is all his own. Such is his fame. The sole purpose of the birth of such Mahatmas is the weal of the people, and that which arises into being has also continuity in being and cessation. The saints are always ready to guide the people, for the conditions around them are full of misconceptions about birth and death, and the permanent state of oneness with the spirit is to these people like the happiness experienced in a dream. Even otherwise, he who was a mind of knowledge and was always self-absorbed, to him the nurturing of the body or its fall is all the same. And so Baba's lifeless body fell, crushing them all under a mountain of sorrow. Laments and wails arose everywhere in Shirdi, vehement and wild. As they heard the news of Baba's Niryan, it was as though an arrow had pierced through and through. The daily routine was interrupted. In utter confusion, people scattered everywhere. As the inauspicious news got around, it was like a thunderbolt for all. The thoughtful sat silent, others gave vent to loud lamentations. Their throats choked with overwhelming love, and from the eyes streamed tears of sorrow. As in their distress, they uttered Shiva, Shiva, Hare. Chaos reigned supreme in every household, accompanied by scenes of uproar. With their hearts beating fast, people ran quickly. Maharaj had passed away. The villagers felt it like a peril, threatening their own lives. Oh God, how terrible is this moment! How heart-rending, they exclaimed. One and all, they started running to the mosque so that its Sabha Mandap was packed totally. Seeing the heart-rending situation, their throats choked with grief. Gone, gone is that splendor of Shirdi, all its happiness. Its good fortune is forever lost. The eyes of all filled with tears, and courage failed them. How glorious was that mosque, which was reckoned one among the Saptapuris, and to which Baba always referred most resolutely as Dwarka Mai. Be it Niryan, Nirvan or Nidhan, Dwarka Mai is the place of Sayujya Mukti for all. And he who meditates on God ceaselessly finds a place there. Such was this Guru Raj Sai Raya, the compassionate father and mother to the devotees and that place of repose. He is remembered always. Shirdi was desolate without Baba. All the 10 directions seemed forlorn. Shirdi was like the body from which life has departed. As when the water in a pond dries up, the fish toss and turn in extreme distress, so the people of Shirdi wilted with sorrow. A lake without a lotus, a home without a sun, a temple without a lamp. So were the surroundings of the mosque vacant. As a household without its master, or a city without a king, or a treasury without money, so was Shirdi reduced to a forest without Baba. As a mother to a child, or the water from the cloud to the Chatak, so also was Baba's love to the people of Shirdi and to all his devotees. Shirdi became lusterless, as if dead, piteous and sorrowful. As a fish water, as fish without water, so the people tossed and turned in agony. Like a wife who abandons her husband, or a mother her infant, as a calf of a cow that has lost its way, so were they all, both old and young. To the people of Shirdi, the grief became uncontrollable. As they ran, helter-skelter in all the four directions, scattering in lanes and by-lanes. It's really very painful. And that is when man realizes what is the worth of a real master. But it's always too late. When the master, the physical being, is gone, it's very sad. Then who are you going to serve? Who are you going to please? And how will you make him ever proud? That's what you have to ask. Because of Sai and Sai alone, that Shirdi had sanctity. Because of him, Shirdi had a character of its own. It was because of Sai alone that it became a place of pilgrimage. It was Sai alone who was the shelter for all. Some cried out loudly, some rolled on the ground in their grief, others fainted. All were stricken with sorrow. As tears of sorrow rolled down their eyes, men and women were in great distress. They were incapable of touching either food or water. Their faces had become piteous. When the villagers saw Baba in that state, their grief reached the point of culmination. All the devotees, young and old, were filled with great disquietude. Where there was one sweet, fascinating tales, where there was joy in various ways, where it was not possible to gain entry quickly, that same mosque today looked like a wilderness. The constant prosperity and sanctity that was in Shirdi earlier was entirely due to Baba, and hence the villagers were naturally filled with regrets. O Sainath, the root of all happiness and joy incarnate, that you took on a body for the cause of the devotees, and having fulfilled your mission, alas, you cast off that body in this Shirdi. Bewildered that we were, you so sincerely instructed and guided us for our own good, day and night, throughout the 8 watches and without weariness. But all that advice and instruction was wasted as water poured on an upturned vessel. Not a drop of it has remained. At every step you would tell us that when you speak slightingly to someone, I instantly feel the pain. But we never heeded your words. Never having listened to your beneficial advice, we are really your great offenders. Is that what you made us atone for the sin of disobedience to your command in this manner? Absolutely. This is one very important lesson that we need to understand. When the Guru is around us, he's always teaching us the good things. Don't do this, don't get angry, don't say anything bad to others. Let them be what they want to. You be very good. My Guruji, my Krishna Guruji always keeps saying, be your good self. To everybody, he teaches all the beautiful things. But we don't want to pay heed to him. We're always in our own, mind state. We want to have our ego, we want to have our way, we want to have our say all the time. But that's exactly what we will repent and regret it. Like this, tomorrow, this day is also not too far. We are also going to go through the same situation, because this is how a man is. Like I said, dog's tail that never straightens out. And he wants to call himself, oh, I am spiritual. I am, I have a Guruji. He's everything to me, my father, my mother. They want to say everything and then take a big knife and backstab him. This is who human beings are, literally. And here, they will want to then regret. But what use is it? Baba's dead and gone. What use is it now? If you can't live and make the Guruji happy of, having such great disciples and devotees with him, what use is it once he leaves the body and goes away? What use is it? You tell me. This is a story for all of us. This is a lesson for all of us that we have to live today. The great masters are not going to be here on forever. because they don't have time. They have limited time at hand. They come, they serve their purpose, and they leave and they go away. But when they are there, we need to make them proud of their knowledge that they have imparted to us, so that the world will recognize who these great gurus are, because he has made us into great divine beings. And that is what the Gurujis always aspire for, to see that their disciples and devotees live the lessons and live that spirituality in them all the time. That is what they crave for. They are not interested in your money, in what you offer, in what you don't offer. Such is the truth. It is the same story goes for everybody. And today we are in the age of Kali, and everybody wants to go after their own tamasic state. No matter, you can be with the Guru for 10 years, 12 years, 100 years. But if you cannot live one of his teachings and make him proud, no use is anything that you have done. No service is going to matter. But if you have lived, respected him, shown him your, shown him how much you care for him, and value that lesson and go and spread the goodness in this world, only then will you be ever offering a Guru Dakshina to him. That is the Guru Dakshina he seeks from you, not anything else. He doesn't want your money, let me tell you this much. He wants nothing. He's an Avaduta, he's a free being. What can you give to the one who owns this entire universe? You can't give him anything, neither can you ever repay what he's done for you. All the karma that he has taken on himself and suffered and, taken care of you like a child, literally ensuring that no calamity shall befall you. And finally, what is that return you're going to give him? Backstab him, talk bad, do all the wrong things, go on the path of adharma. That is what you want to give to him. Think and ask yourself, what is the Guru Dakshina do I want to offer to my Guruji? That is something that is left to you on what you want to be, because the choice is always in your hands. That is exactly what Lord Shri Krishna says. I gave the choice to both Arjuna and Duryodhana. Do you want me or my army? The decision is yours. But Lord Shri Krishna is untouched. He is mere a witness. So this is what you have to come to, a decision in your life. So Baba, never having listened to your beneficial advice, we are really your great offenders. Is that what you made us atone for that sin of disobedience to your command in this manner? Baba, is this the full measure of all our sins? But what is the use of repenting now? All the suffering, for it must be endured willingly. Absolutely. When the Divine Master has gone away, what use is it? What else can you do? Nothing. There's nothing that you can do. But at least, even after he goes away, at least if you can live his lessons and atone for the sins that you have committed, somewhere he will be pleased, because know that he's always there in omnipresent form. At least you will make him happy to that much. So this is a thing, this is a question that you need to ask yourself. It is a very, very profound lesson. Please cogitate, please contemplate, go in silence, and hopefully you will be able to get some benefit out of this. And I keep saying, it is better late than never. It is time now. You can even get up now and have the transformation happening within you. Don't waste your life. We are at the end of the hour. So we'll stop here at verse 112. We'll continue tomorrow morning, same time at 8:30 a.m. I hope you learned a lot today, and it's a very, very important chapter. Thank you for joining Sai Satcharita Parayan. Om Shri Mahaganapate Namaha. Om Shri Gurudev Datta. Om Shri Sachidananda Sadguru.